Good day, it's Carl from Studio In Car. Next to me is Lee's 911 GT3 Touring, one of the best specs I've ever seen, and this is one of the largest projects we've done for a little while. Let's take a look. Paint, silver trim's been retained, silver wheels, comfort seats with the houndstooth. Does it get any better? It's yeah, dreamy stuff, this Touring. It's anyway, Lee had a very particular plan when he came in. Most of the equipment you're gonna hear me talk about today has been put together by Lee himself. He had his plan, he's done his homework, and he wanted to go a specific route, and we have fulfilled that for him, and it's been a whopper of a project. When you do sort of top end amplification, especially when the topology changes into class A, B, class A, things like that, they run a lot hotter. All right, they become a lot less efficient to run, but that efficiency and sound quality, they're a sort of juxtaposition. All right, the better it sounds, typically the less efficient it will be, the more fuel it's going to use, the more heat it's going to generate, and things like that. And these things really need mapping out. They need time spending on what scenarios it could face, how long is it going to drive for, how hot are these things going to get, where are they located. So it's taken a lot of thought, this one. Initially, the plan was to build something in the front luggage compartment area, bearing in mind there's 3 Audison Thesis amplifiers in this job, which, if you're watching this and you know what the TH amplifier is, it is a slab of an amplifier, about 10 kilos per amplifier, which we'll get onto in a minute as well. We entertained the idea, we looked, we measured a few things and things like that, but the 2 things that I couldn't get past was primarily cooling in that front area. We don't want to have to modify the car, okay? Now, to cool that area, we would have to cut a hole in the car somewhere, and it was just a big old no-go for me. And for Lee, we discussed it with him. The other one was weight over the front axle, okay? In total, around 35 kilos of weight in front of the front axle. We didn't want that either. Whilst we can compensate for that, and we can modify things in other areas to do the geometry, we don't really want to get into that. So we had a discussion, we had a bit of a sit down, although it was, over the phone, and we figured out a different scenario in which we can have the amps inboard of the axles, not affecting the geometry of the car too much, if at all, really. I've driven it, I've test driven, the car feels incredible, of course, after we've done the installation. Yeah, so those were the factors that change the job slightly. Now, these things creep up when you're doing large installations. This is one of our, as you will see, is one of our custom 911 jobs. So you may be familiar with our tiered system for 911s and Porsche chassis in general. This one, you will have heard me say there's a custom level. This is very much into that custom domain. So on the rear deck, we've got 3 Thesis amplifiers in there. We've got 2 Morel Ultimo TI 8-inch subwoofers, which go into the rear seat delete section. The section above that is space for us to do our job. So all the networking, the DSP, all of the integration stuff, it all goes in that center section. We've probably got some B-roll, which I'll of course put on the screen now. That rack is built, it's measured in the car, but it's built outside of the car, and then it's also plumbed in outside of the car. And then we create a link between the two so that we can, I say easily, it's not easy at all, but so that we can manage it properly, so we can put the rack into the car and then make the car to the rack rather than build it inside the car, which is very risky for the car's interior, the car's electronic system. It's just, yeah, we'd rather just do it off board. So the car sits there and waits for its amp rack to be fitted. Just fired up for the first time. It's not often that I'm a little overwhelmed in this business, but this has taken a fair amount of time, a lot of planning, a fair bit of brain power to get this all up and running, sort of, you know, first hit. And yeah, we've got everything, all the cooling, all the amps are on, DSP's fine, everything's fine on the dash. Wicked. Let's go. This also has an Audison Thesis. It's a full Audison Thesis setup. So the Audison Thesis sax mid-bass, the Violino tweeter, and the Voce mid-range as well. So the Audison Thesis Voce mid-range, not the Audison Voce mid-range. They're all on custom baffles. The tweeters were tricky. You know, if you know anything about the 911, especially the 992, the tweeters are a fair bit more tricky than previous generations. The space is similar, but the design and the way you get things in there is different. So we've Jamie had to create a you know, platform for that tweeter to go on, and we got it in there, and it works. You know, tuned from the first reflection point, it works really well. The level of detail in this system is just, it's unreal. That, you know, you whilst we do high-end systems quite a lot, the very top bracket we do a couple a year. Okay, so you get reminded why these things cost as much as they do, why they are as highly strung as they are, why they're as inefficient as they are, you know, and it's all down to that SQ. The level of detail in here and the depth that you can hear is just crazy. You just don't really get to hear that in cars most often. The doors also have our triple sound deadening package as well, but we've added an extra layer of acoustic foam in this one, which creates a sort of barrier for that energy transfer between the inner door panel and the outer door card. They're really dead. They sound really nice. So we've done a fair bit of EQing in here because the bass level head unit isn't the cleanest signal you can get, but there are future plans with this one to go for a secondary source and things like that. Lee just didn't want to complicate it straight off the bat, which seems kind of ironic considering the level that we've gone to. Yeah, let me show you around the system. We've got the panels off this morning because we just added some tabs to the rear center panel if we need to change any fusing or anything like that, which I'll show you right now. Which is this panel here. So it's got tabs on the back for locking into place. It's got these that you can pull that panel out with. These were printed by ours, and they're wherever you see one of them, there's a bunch of fans behind it. There's 9 fans in this system, so 2 underneath the rack, 3 on the front of the rack, 3 on the back, and then 1 on the front to sort of exhaust the amp rack, because once all the trim panels are on, you can't see anything, and that was the initial brief. Nothing to be seen at all. It doesn't matter how big or small anything is, it all has to just be trimmed down so it's standard and doesn't attract the eye. Okay, underneath can be as pretty as we like, but the actual finished product needed to look like it just basically wasn't there. So yeah, like I say, we've got them panels off right now. I can show you the amp rack, and then we'll put the panels on, we'll have a quick chat, and then I'll let you go, because there's a lot to talk about on this one, and I don't want to make it too boring for you, because the car's incredible, the system's incredible, it sounds incredible, wicked job, and I'm super nervous about it going home. I don't know why. It happens every single time, and the bigger they get, the more, I don't know, yeah, you just care about it a lot, you know, so it's you kind of mother them out of here. And then also when they've been here for a long time, it's a shame when they go. Let's have a look. All right, look at the spec of this thing. Like, it's just ridiculous. PCCB with black calipers, silver, kept the silver trim. Oh, it's just lovely, absolutely lovely. as usual, you can't see a single thing, which to you might be a little bit boring, but to us it means we've completely nailed this brief with this car. So you wouldn't think that this was hiding a full Thesis front end, including the tweeters up on the dash top, which is probably the more tricky part of the installation, other than the crazy amp rack. Just see through the back there. Pull this seat forward for you. That's the tuning cable that's still in, because of course Lee's collecting the car very soon. We leave that in case he wants anything changing. It's tricky to get a full shot of this because you can't really, the lens isn't wide enough to get in there, but you can see all of the cooling that's gone into place. We've got 0 gauge cabling in there, 4 gauge to the amps. We've used Cord Electronics RCAs and speaker cables throughout. You can see a little junction box just down there, which is how we mate the rack to the car. Same goes for all the power cables and everything. Everything is done before it goes into the car. Let's see if we can get a shot through the window. There's a crazy amount of amplification in this car. The subwoofer box, fully custom, takes up the shape of the rear seat deletion panel. This whole thing is designed to tie in with that interior feature there, where the rear door card kicks around to where the seat would be. It's the only logical way to get a system that's so large into a car like this and not have it look completely stupid, you know. We know that there's a compromise with the way things look, and of course we would love the car to just look completely standard and have this level of sound. It's not going to happen, all right? These compromises need to be made when you're into music and sound at this level, you know. It starts to get, the thinking about the design of the system gets even more important the higher up you go. So what a thing this is. I'll put these panels on now and then I'll show you it sort of complete and how it looks with the seats up and stuff. Looking at it just as a singular thing in the back isn't really what you need to do. You need to take it in with the rest of the car, and you'll see that it just flows quite well. These panels are now in, and this is how it looks from the back. You can see it's got 2 swage lines. One marries the top of the door card there. You've got that vented section in the centre which blows hot air out of the front and cold air goes in the top. The rest of the fans inside are to agitate the air. You don't want air sitting still around an amplifier. And that's it. With this seat back and you driving, it's nowhere near as large as what it looks like when you sort of focus on it as an individual product. And this is unused space. This isn't stuff that, you know, there's no seats there. It doesn't have anything to put in there. He did want a flight case to fit in the front area if we managed to get all the amps in the front, but now he can fit multiple flight cases in the front area because there's nothing in there at all. In terms of numbers, channels, outputs and things like that, it's a relatively straightforward system. It's a 3-way active system with an active subwoofer, so you could say it's 4-way including bass, but yeah, it's a 3-way front end with sub. It's just using some really top-notch kit, and you can hear it as well. I'm not expecting you all to come rushing through the door to have jobs like this done. These are relatively rare, few and far between, people who are really into it and really appreciate that very top of what we can do. And we've nailed it with this, you know. It's we've done what we've had to do to get those pieces of equipment fitted and try and be as courteous as we can be to the car. Yeah, it's worked really well. Super happy with it. Anyway, I'm Carl, it's a studio in car. This is Lee's 911 Touring GT3. What a thing. Take it easy.